hard part would be,
I'm happy to hear that.
I don't know how how that came about.
Yeah, well,
That
birthdays around the 6th. I've always, everyone in my family has some.
It came about.
Jack, I've gotten the thumbs up.
Alrighty.
By each of the teams, the energy. Well, I hear we had a thumbs up, and I can see the monitor up there, so I'm just fine. Thank you very much. I would like to call to order the January 7, 2026 meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian. If staff would be so kind as to perform a roll call for us.
Absolutely. Alrighty. We'll start with our chair, Bill McConnell.
Here.
He's here. Our vice chair, Yuman Lee.
Here.
Is here. Our commissioner is Tom Frazier, who is absent. Excused. Our commissioner, Richard Mixachek.
Present.
Our commissioner, Laura Belil.
Present.
Present. Our commissioner, Cynthia Peterson, who
has resigned.
Has
not been reappointed.
Correct. She was invited tonight to receive her accolade. Commissioner Harrison Batten.
Here.
And trustee Nicholas Lentz.
Here.
Finally, I am project engineer Jack Hughes, representing the staff.
Great. I am so excited that we're going to get a presentation this evening. This is always the highlight. And this evening, our presentation is on wetland education signage from Emma Campbell. Welcome and great to see you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight. And as you just said, my name is Emma Campbell. I'm the Land Stewardship Coordinator for Meridian Township. And I do have a really quick question. Do I just push the
big one
little arrow? Okay. So I'm here tonight to present on our wetland education signage. I did bring our color samples if you want to actually touch the sign and see it up close. So before I get into the actual signage, I just kind of want to overview. So I think it was back in, oh my gosh, it must have been 2021 or 2022 that we really got together the Wetland Protection and Education Program and campaign. And that came from some concerned commissioners and board members and residents. And really the concern was coming from how do we let people know about the importance of wetlands, and also how do we let them know about our really progressive wetland ordinance that we have in Meridian Township. Our ordinance is much more protective than state regulations. Wetlands that are a quarter acre over in size are protected under that ordinance. But of course it is an ordinance, and the question comes down to how do we enforce these things? And really, when we get to the bottom of it, it comes down to education. And so that whole program and campaign started really to educate our residents and to give them the tools they need to understand how they can care for wetlands that are right in their backyard, and what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. Permitting out, building around wetlands is one thing, but we don't often think about the wetland degradation and destruction that comes from maybe just mowing a little bit further into the wetland buffer each year, or dumping our leaves or vegetation into those areas, which can also spread invasive species and destroy the habitat there. So we really, designed this to reach out to the residents in the community and educate them on our important wetlands. And that was a fund that was actually just for wetland education projects. And so we sent out letters and things like that. But then we also thought, well, why don't we get some signage in these areas so that folks can start seeing what a wetland is and why they are so important. So this is the picture of our signage that we currently have installed that was funded through what is now the Climate Sustainability Fund. And so these are at the locations listed there on the slide. And really we wanted to make this signage a little bit more about wetlands in general. We wanted to make it charismatic with different wildlife and flora that you would find in these places. So we have nice pictures. And this just really talks about why they're important and all of the amazing things that they do for us, such as stormwater management. Wetlands are amazing at absorbing water, and then when we have droughts, they slowly release that water. They also filter our water and clean it, and of course, they provide incredible habitat for our native flora and fauna species, and actually a lot of very sensitive plant species as well reside in wetlands. So this is one of our signs that was funded, thank you, through that program. And this is at a little wetland at Lake Park that's right next to the railroad. And it's extremely diverse. It's kind of hard to see, maybe you can see it better on your screens, but there's tons of irises bloomed in this picture. So really we wanted to try to get these signs at different areas, some that are maybe a little more remote, some that are often used frequently by folks. And so this is right off the trail here. And then something I really want to kind of highlight this little project specifically that goes in with our signage at Hillbrook Park. So you can see our sign there. It's underneath the red arrow there. But this has been really neat, and this is a big purpose of the signs. And there's also other signs too that I'll show you in a minute here. But I think this is a really great example of why we wanted to do this. And when we started thinking about these signs and also this wetland program, I wanted to make sure and take a look around at our wetlands that are on our properties and really make sure that we are sticking to our ordinance and we are respecting these wetland buffers. So one of our ordinances is that you must maintain at least a 20-foot wetland buffer outside of a wetland line, which is really hard for people to understand where that line is unless it's, professionally delineated. But there's lots of different ways we kind of tell and try to figure that out. So we actually, where that red arrow is where they used to mow to in Hillbrook Park. So basically right up to the line of cattails there. And so we set that buffer out about 25 feet. Not only does it save our crew of 6 that maintains 90 miles of pathways among everything else. So they love it because it's reduced mowing for them. But this is just a really cool area. There's buttonbush that grows here in the wetland where it's a little bit, more, the water level's higher in the back there. And then my staff and volunteers, we planted Michigan holly all in that new buffer, which it's doing really well. I just visited it and it's surviving the deer. And I think the really neat thing about this project was that just not mowing this area, there's a little area at the edge of this buffer that gets really wet, and we found bladderwort and northern water plantain growing there, which bladderwort is a really cool little plant that we don't see very often. So just the act of us respecting the buffer of the wetlands like our ordinance tells us to has really improved the habitat here, and it really just improves the functionality of the wetland. And so it can do its job and help us. So that signage is already installed. This is further signage to really talk about those wetland buffers. So again, the other one is more focused on what wetlands are in general, and then this one is focused on what the heck is a wetland buffer and why do we need to be thinking about these things. So this will go into 7 different locations, parks and preserves, and we're also looking to other areas too, where we really need to promote wetland edges and making sure that people are respecting that, not mowing, not dumping, not landscaping with non-native ornamentals and things like that. So we are kind of hoping that different communities would also be interested in these signs. So these are coming right now, and again, thank you to that Climate Sustainability Fund. They will be installed this year. And then, of course, we get to, plug our conservation work that we do in our wetland protection page, which is wonderful. And then this is another sign that we are very much in a draft phase. It's actually very difficult to create signage and make sure it makes sense. And so this one is more of a diagram, and we're really toying around with it. We want to most likely bring some of the verbiage off of it so that it's more pictures. But this is especially an example of a sign that we feel that HOAs would be interested in, or places that have common space that is contractually landscaped. That's probably the biggest thing that I get a call about, is that the residents don't do their own mowing. And then they want a sign from us that they can put up on the wetland buffer edge to show this is where you stop mowing. We do have no-mow signs for that are just little cute small signs that have a heron on it. But we really feel like we want to go further, and we want people to understand why, and we want it to be an educational piece. So this is certainly, both of these, the last two signs I just showed you, will go together. They'll complement each other. And we're really hoping to utilize them as well for some of our riparian areas where we want to create similar buffers, so around our rivers and other wetlands in the township. So we're hoping to create something that really gives people a visualization of what that looks like. So this is the last sign that we will be ordering this year. And that concludes the signage overview, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I really thank everyone who has had a hand in getting that fund started and really putting it forward so that we can draw more attention to our wetlands and the care that we need to give them. So yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for coming this evening. That's really exciting. Until you showed the third sign, I was going to ask, these are obviously professionally designed because they're really attractive. The
Oh,
third
thank
one
you.
is a little bit heavy on the verbiage, but these ones, they look like professional signage to me.
Thank you. We created, my team, me and my staff created those two signs.
Wow.
And the last one is been really a project for my staff, Rachel McKee, and she struggled with the same thing. I mean, these things really take a while to develop because we know they're going to be permanent, and we want the education and the words to be there, but we want it to be succinct and something that people can understand. So yeah, we agree that we want to back off on the words, but just want to give you a sneak peek into what we're working on.
And where does the QR code lead?
So the QR code is on this one here. It's also on the one that is already installed, right there. And so it's at the bottom, and when you scan that, it takes you to the wetland protection page on our township's website so that people can learn about the ordinance and different ways to conserve wetlands.
Super.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
I do have one question. You mentioned that several of the signs would be appropriate for use by HOAs. Is there a mechanism where HOAs can obtain duplicate copies of some of those signage?
So that's a piece that we will develop and work on. I think personally that it might be a nice addition to potentially the Green Grant program, where we're allotting a certain number of signs to be applied for that program. I don't know if that's an exact fit, but I'm definitely open to input and ideas from the folks who are managing that fund. But also where these properties are butting up to preserves, which there's a lot of, that's why Meridian Township is so desirable, because we have all this green space. Those places I would consider, being able to utilize land preservation funds as well to just help those HOAs help us protect wetlands, because really nature has no boundaries. Wetlands don't have boundaries. The hydrology is all connected. So we just want to be able to help people with that. So that's still being developed, but I'm very much open to any input that anyone might have on that. So.
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation, Emma. I'm curious if you could speak to, I know that you know this well, but how Meridian handles invasives, and specifically when it comes to wetlands, which not as easy to access as, this carpeted room here, what that looks like, and, if there's specific pesticides that you can't use because of the wetness and things like that. I would really appreciate hearing more about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we do invasive management all over the township, on township land, and terrestrial invasives are certainly easier for us to get to, and we don't need permitting for that. As long as a plant is not in standing water, we don't need to permit it out, but of course, to anyone out there actually using herbicide, the label is law, and you have to read that label, and there's a very responsible way to apply these things. We also prioritize integrative pest management, so we use a lot of other methods such as prescribed burns, forestry mulching, mowing, hand pulling of things. So with those aquatic invasive species, a lot of times we're going through a company and we're contracting that out because they have like amphibious vehicles and they can really go out there and do it right. We go out there with our backpack sprayers and we're going, these plants are 15 feet tall. And so it's hard for us. We do it, but we leave the bigger patches to contractual management. And those are permitted out through us. They can do it too, but we have a permit through Eagle that is a township-wide coverage, and so we apply for that permit for aquatic nuisance species, invasive species, and then we map out our specific sites that we know we're going to be going to, and we have to let them know what herbicide we're using, and we do a report at the end of the year where we write down all the volume we use, the concentrations, the amounts, when we applied it, and all that stuff. So it is very important to note that, and as a homeowner, our wetland ordinance does protect our wetlands and wetland buffers from pesticide use. And so that is one of the things that we've really wanted to educate folks on, is that you are not allowed to apply pesticide there unless you have the proper permitting. So we do really talk about that on our wetland protection page, that we are happy to come out and help people. If you live in the township and you're a taxpayer, you're paying for us to be here. So we do offer, if you're a taxpayer, that we will come out to your yard and we will do an assessment. We'll tell you what native species you have, what invasive species you have, and we'll give you an entire report on resources, how to do it, the right way to do it, all that great stuff. So anybody who is interested, we do offer that service for free because you pay with your tax dollars. But we are always there to help guide people and answer questions.
Thank you. Do you know off the top of your head like a ballpark number of how many people exercise that, asking you to come out? And
it's one of the things I've been trying to track better over the years, but I would say over the years it's probably around 60 to 80 residents who we visited their houses. And it used to just be me with a clipboard, and I would take pictures and say, okay, you got to take notes while I talk. But now that I have staff, they take notes and take pictures, and we write up the whole report for you. So it's gotten better. If you got the survey early from me, then you might want it redone.
That's great. I really appreciate that explanation.
Thank you. I'll thank you so much for this, and this is beautiful work. It's really exciting to see, and so thank you. It hits near and dear to my heart, I know, with wetland background too. So, but I did want to double back. So you mentioned about the green grants, and I think on the review, was it right that one of the HOAs suggested to have signage in there?
There were two HOAs that applied
Okay.
this last cycle, and
Right.
one of them we actually recommended that they
Yes.
include signage, and
Was that agreeable?
they agreed to do so. I
Okay.
haven't seen the outcome of that, but yes.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if that might be the first pilot perhaps there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to connect that.
No, that's great. A lot of them ask for it. I went out to Commissioner Misek. Am I saying your last name? I always say your first name. So
Very good.
I went out to Wildwood Lakes HOA and we did a report management plan for them. And that's like one of the examples of there's people who want to take care of the common spaces there. And of course, you can do all the work and improve it. And that's great, that's the baseline, but being able to get a sign there and educate folks, that's really, really important, and signage is not cheap.
Right.
It costs a pretty penny, so I think that would be a wonderful utilization of the green grant for sure.
Yeah, and then maybe we could build from there. We could say, okay, this one's established now, other HOAs, let's see, this is our first pilot, and, this is what it could look like in your area too, and amplify that. That could be a nice in for that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Awesome.
great
Just
suggestion.
wanted to connect that for us, so thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, so that's awesome. I really wanted for you to be able to share, what you've been doing with the signage, because we've, since the commission has been funding the signs and everything, and so, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was just curious.
Go for it.
that, given that either for existing funding that we still have available through the Climate Sustainability Fund, or for in the future, do you have any thoughts about sort of what are some, next steps or other things that you think might be particularly helpful, for wetland education for the township, wetland protection for the township then?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for our part of what we do for stewardship and conservation around the wetlands, we have a lot in motion that doesn't require funding. We collect our own seeds, we grow our own plants. We really like keeping everything local with things like native habitat restoration. So we don't, for our means, we don't really look to outward sources for plants. But as far as, that's for township property, of course. Private homeowners, if they want to enhance anything, that's different. But we're trying to kind of keep with that for our parks and preserves, and keeping the plants really local. So that's something that we've kind of tossed around, is like the native habitat restoration around those wetlands is also really important. But it's a lot of work that we do, and it's already kind of paid for in a sense, since we have everything for those things. So to me, I think, and this might not necessarily be a straightforward answer, but I think one of the things around the wetland education is being able, our office of our code enforcement staff, there's not a lot of staff, that's why we wanted to educate the community, because they're the ones who often call us and say, someone's developing a wetland, do they have a permit? And sometimes they don't. We don't have staff just like making rounds and being able to go see those encroachment issues. We have a huge issue along Lake Drive with leaf dumping and vegetation dumping. And I think there's something around that we need to brainstorm how to get more residents on the same page about how to take care of these spaces. A lot of the wetlands along Lake Drive are right off the road, and for some reason, people think it's okay to cross the road and dump a bunch of vegetation in those areas instead of taking care of it on their own property. So to me, that's one of the biggest issues that we need to address. I'm not 100% sure how the funding wraps into that. We did have a really successful campaign of sending letters to landscape contractors and things like that. So we were paying for postage to everyone. I don't know exactly the solution, but I think that is the issue to me that needs to be addressed the most, is encroachment and illegal dumping on these areas. And again, it's mostly vegetation. It's not like people are throwing trash out there, although they do. We've hauled lots of tires. I've probably removed like 150 tires in my career here. But yeah, I think there's something there that we really need to address. And I would love to develop that in my brain more when I can think better. But to me, that's the biggest issue. And I do think there's green infrastructure projects that could, we put a wet meadow in at Marshall Park. Because as a lot of you know, if you pass Marshall Park, the middle of it pretty much stays wet. I know they put a bioswale in there too. But there's different infrastructure projects I think we could look into for some of that funding. And that was a case where we did have a contractor come in and we had them plant, Michigan genotype plants. But I think those are projects that would be a great use of funds.
Good, thanks.
I hope that helps.
In the Lake Drive example, obviously one solution is to deal with the leaves and stuff on one's own property. If one doesn't choose to do that, one can pay someone to come and collect them. In a more suburban environment, lots of people pay for that pickup. But it also strikes me that the transfer station.
Is right on that
sets
road.
Right there. And if there was a way to encourage the folks along that section to take that option or to somehow facilitate that option. I saw earlier some educational materials out in the lobby kind of focused on Lake Lansing. And I don't recall that issue being one raised in that kind of educational material, but maybe for future materials, that could be one of the points that gets.
Absolutely, and we sent out letters that were educational and also reminding people of some of the penalties or, consequences of illegal dumping. And we had a brochure that one of our interns worked up. We sent that out to everyone along Lake Drive. But when we do that, we just print brochures out on our printer and they're not professional looking. So those are some of the things that we could consider, like having professional, materials printed or, something that is a little more, longer lasting maybe, to send out to those folks. And we did put, signage up along Lake Drive too. That was another thing that came out of that Wetland Education Fund was, a reminder of the Wetland Protection Ordinance, and that's posted every 50 feet or 100 feet along Lake Drive. But again, it's just citing an ordinance, it's not education. So I think there's a lot of room to do that, and I think there's a lot of room to aid staff too, in trying to get this word out. And when you work for the township and you're a land manager, you drive around your whole office and you get a huge to-do list. Like even when I'm driving home, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that Phragmites stand, So it's tough, we want to get to everything, but we simply can't. And it's really tough to see that habitat degradation. Some of those leaf piles are up to my hip, and you just kind of think, I kind of try to educate, if you wouldn't do it to your neighbor's property, although some people will, then don't do it to property that's not yours or that you don't know what it is, so.
It's a little bit ironic that the entity that manages the lake periodically pays to have unwanted vegetation growing from the bottom of the lake harvested and removed. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, people living near the lake are dumping unwanted vegetation into
Yes. Yeah.
I guess it makes me wonder, is there any scope for, the Lake Lansing Advisory
Board? Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a place that we could visit next, and just to be there for a meeting and bring up this issue. And you had mentioned the transfer station, and Trevor, who runs that area, who's awesome. We have actually talked about collaborating and really trying to get that word out for leaf season of, it's helping him get business, but it's also it's the responsible way. So him and I have also talked about what can we do to kind of come up with this united kind of campaign, that you have a resource right on your road that you can and so that's why we also had sent information to contractors, because we do understand that a lot of homeowners, they're not even seeing that part of the work being done. Someone's doing it for them, and I see it all the time. I just saw it this fall where contractors are blowing leaves out into the storm drains and across the road. So we understand that there's not always a direct communication or effect there. So that's why we were choosing to send things out to contractors in this area who might be doing that work. So it's tough. We're trying to attack it from all ends.
That's all right. We'll just ban leaf blowers. No, I didn't say that. Any other questions, comments, suggestions for Emma? If not, thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please don't feel obligated to stick around. I mean, you're more than welcome to stick around for the rest of our meeting, but.
I appreciate it. I'm going to take my leave, but I appreciate all of you. Thank you for having me to talk about this important issue.
Thank you. That takes us to item 4 of our agenda, citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. Seeing no citizens other than commissioners and visitors here, we'll move to 5 comments from the public. Once again, No public. I have not seen any communications. Have anybody received since the packet went out? Staff says no. That takes us to item 7, approval of the agenda. Anybody like to make any changes, deletions, subtractions to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as submitted without objection. Approval of the minutes, November 5th, 2025, regular meeting. I believe Commissioner Mixachek had some minor changes that communicated to staff. Did you want to point those out real quick, or are they?
Just clarifying names.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any changes they'd like to offer to the minutes? Without objection, the minutes are approved with the minor corrections submitted by Commissioner Mixachek. New business, Bird City discussion and resolution. Here we go. I would recommend that we begin with putting a motion on the floor that we can then discuss.
Okay, I'm actually prepared to provide a little bit of background on what happens before making the resolution. Should I do that?
Let's make the motion, and we can then debate your motion, and you can offer your background at that time.
Okay, very good.
And I would suggest, if you don't mind, that
Start with the whereases.
if the commission doesn't object, maybe we could go, if you'd like to read the whereases, please do, yes. The whereases and the therefores.
I think they provide some justification, so.
Sure,
that's
yes,
probably a good
absolutely.
idea. So whereas Meridian Township has a long history of striving to be at the forefront of environmental sustainability, and whereas Meridian Township resolved to achieve the goals of existing U.S. multilateral environmental agreements and adopted a climate sustainability plan, whereas birds play an important ecological role in the community, controlling insect pests and contributing to pollination and seed dispersal, whereas birds play an important economic role in the community, attracting tourists and generating millions in recreational dollars statewide, and whereas migratory birds and their habitats are declining throughout the Americas, facing growing number of threats on their migration routes and in both their summer and winter homes. And whereas public awareness and concern are crucial components of migratory bird conservation, whereas since 1993, World Migratory Bird Day has become a primary vehicle for focusing public attention on the nearly 350 species that travel between nesting habitats in our communities and throughout North America and their wintering grounds in South and Central America, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Southern U.S. Whereas through Bird City, hundreds of thousands of people will observe the World Migratory Bird Day, gathering in town squares, community centers, schools, parks, nature centers, and wildlife refuges to learn about birds, take action to conserve them, and simply to have fun. And whereas citizens enthusiastic about birds, informed about the threats they face, and empowered to help address those threats can directly contribute to maintaining healthy bird populations. Whereas sound policies and practices enhancing natural ecosystems and reducing threats to birds also make healthier communities for people. Whereas Bird City is an initiative to build relationships within local communities and guide action to protect and conserve birds and their habitats. And whereas Meridian Township finds that it is in the best interest of the community and residents to show its support for the Bird City initiative, now therefore be it resolved by the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, moves to adopt a resolution in support of the Bird City initiative, and I will add, and to pursue the official designation of Meridian Township as a bird city in Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Mixachek has moved adoption of the resolution. Is there support?
Support.
We have support. Invite Commissioner Mixachek to address his motion.
Bear with me a little bit. I'm working from notes, but I want to be inclusive and comprehensive in what I present. I'd like to start out by reviewing what has happened. The Bird City, Michigan program was launched by the National Audubon Society in January of last year, 2025, with the goal of raising awareness about bird-friendly practices that communities across the country and state of Michigan can foster and support. Many of you should remember that on October 1st of last year, there was a presentation to the Environmental Commission from Linda Smith, who serves as Director of Partnerships for Michigan Audubon, inviting Meridian Township to consider joining the Bird City Network. At that time, there were 4 other communities in the state that already achieved designation as Bird City in Michigan, and those are Roscommon, Sterling Heights, Ann Arbor, and Iosco County. Since then, Big Rapids has also joined the network, increasing the number of bird cities in Michigan to 5. On November 18th of last year, a group of individuals participated in a Zoom call to discuss how to move forward on this project. The meeting was led by Linda Smith, the Director of Partnerships for Michigan Audubon, and it was attended by 2 members of the Capital Area Audubon Society. That would be Nick Segerson, who is the Capital Association Audubon, Capital Area Audubon Association President, and Charles Klotz, who's a Meridian Township resident and member of the Capital Area Michigan Audubon Society. And also at the meeting were Katie Adams from Harris Nature Center, Emma Campbell, the Township Stewardship Coordinator, Jack Hughes, project staff was present, and then 2 other Meridian Green Team members, Sarah Allen participated, Bruce Peffers participated, and I attended the meeting representing the Environmental Commission and the Green Team. This group discussed the process of applying for a Bird City designation, which includes a series of steps, and I think it's probably worth going through those steps to know what the process is going to be. The first is submitting an intent to apply form to the Bird City Network, National Audubon Society, and it is my understanding that Emma Campbell is working on that and may have already submitted the intent to apply. The second step is assembling a team to begin the application and shepherd it through the designation process. Third step is identifying 10 or more items from among a list of 95 action items that are required to qualify for Bird City, Michigan designation, including scheduling at least one event to celebrate the World Migratory Bird Day, which will be held this year on May 9th, 2026. Passing a resolution in support of Bird City, Michigan designation coming initiated by the Environmental Commission and then going to the Board of Trustees and being endorsed by the Board of Trustees would be the 4th requirement. Completing and uploading an application form and submitting a $200 application fee, which could come from the Township Climate Sustainability Fund. Creating a web page for the Meridian Township on the birdcity.org Michigan website to publicize information about local birding events, birding hotspots within the community, educational opportunities and resources, local organizations which support conservation efforts, etc. So attendees on the Zoom call, kind of endorsed by Linda Smith from the Audubon Society, felt that the assembled group included all the necessary stakeholders and expertise to form the initial Bird City team from our community. Emma Campbell agreed to serve as a team leader for that team, and additional members might be added to the team in the future if interest and need for expertise arises. So I suggested that a straightforward way to get things started would be for me as a member of the Environmental Commission to propose the resolution on the table in support of designation of Meridian Township as a bird city in Michigan. The other thing I will note, some beneficial aspects of why the township should become a bird city in Michigan. What are some of the benefits? This would represent a community-wide effort to adopt bird-friendly practices, including managing our green spaces, educating the public, and reducing threats to birds. Meridian Township boasts forward-looking programs and practices already in place that make us an excellent candidate for the Bird City, Michigan program. These include educational and outreach programs offered by Harris Nature Center, our extensive system of nature preserves, parks, and trails, our land stewardship program, and ongoing efforts to tackle invasive species and foster their replacement by species native to mid-Michigan. We also have an active network of volunteers that are part of the Meridian Township Conservation Corps, the Green Team, the fact that we have a climate sustainability and green space plan that's already in place, as well as other township initiatives. And the township already has a dark sky ordinance, which is one of the action items that can be used to support the Bird City in Michigan designation. Designation as a member of the Bird City Network and participation in the World Migratory Bird Day events should be economically beneficial to the township by attracting members of the large and active community of bird watchers and supporting ecotourism in our area. And then finally, Bird City designation should also help to foster a mindset of stewardship among community members and township officials when we are considering actions related to commercial activities, land development, and our local environment. Having a mindset which takes into consideration our resident bird population and migratory birds will inevitably have a much broader impact on the other animal and plant species that share our green spaces, wetlands, parks, and preserves.
Thank you. Further discussion of the motion? A couple of things, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a question to clarify. So, we would make the motion, but then it has to be approved. I mean, it ultimately has to be like approved by the township.
Right. I think
board
the
before we could submit the
best
application.
mechanism would be for us to make the resolution, pass it along to the Board of Trustees for consideration, and then ultimately they would make the decision of whether or not we go forward with the application.
Okay.
And I will say, as someone who was not a part of the meeting plans that have already happened, which I appreciate the direction on that, Richard. I talked with township board members, and I see no obstacle on our end to moving this along. So appreciate again the work being done by the citizen commissions for Meridian Township.
A couple of things that caught my eye. One of them was the request of the township board, and I have a proposed amendment to the resolution for that. The other piece that caught my eye was the fee, which I don't recall if you mentioned the amount, and the climate sustainability plan sounds like a great place for that to come from. I'm not quite sure as a mechanism how we earmark that and make sure that we actually set aside that money so that we can actually get the money behind our resolution. So since it has to go to the township board, I think probably the now therefore might best read that the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian Income County, Michigan recommends that the township board adopt a resolution in support of the Bird City initiative. That way our resolution is a recommendation to the township board, and they can simply choose to adopt or amend this resolution and adopt it themselves.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Right. And just to address your question, the fee is an initial application fee of $200. And my understanding is that there will be an annual renewal that goes on top of that. And the annual renewal will include some modification of our justification for wanting to continue in the Bird City, Michigan program with an additional $200 fee at the time of annual renewal.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of the mechanics of the, whether the board would want us to set aside monies or whether they would want to make their own. And I guess they can figure that out when it gets to them, what's the simplest mechanism to make sure that we have those funds set aside and we don't get to year 2 and say, oops, no money in the bank.
And since Emma's here, I think you mentioned at the last Land Preservation Advisory Board meeting, you brought this up that the fee could potentially also be covered by land preservation funds, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe it could, and of course, we can have our lawyers look and make sure that everything fits, but it really fits into, the ordinance in my opinion.
Okay.
To be able to utilize those funds.
And I will say, with our new township manager and our finance director taking a slightly different approach than the township budget has done in years past with where dollars go towards, I can't specifically say where those dollars are coming from as the board member present, but I do trust that the stat, based on how nonchalantly Tim Dempsey said, that is not going to be the holdup here. I expect any sort of issue.
Great. Other thoughts, suggestions, discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Commissioner Mitchell, for moving this forward, and Emma for sticking around and getting us through that part. Yeah.
Thank you for your approval.
That takes us to item 9B, resolution of appreciation. Looking for a volunteer to read the resolution, the tribute of appreciation into the record.
Would you like me to?
I would be very pleased if you would do so.
Okay.
I think it would mean the most coming from you.
As she is currently my teacher, I think I should. Just the whereases or anything else?
Yeah, the whereases and the now therefore.
Okay. Whereas Commissioner Cynthia Peterson has been an active resident of Meridian Township, who works professionally as a chemistry teacher with degrees in sustainable community development and chemistry education. And whereas Commissioner Peterson was appointed to the Township Environmental Commission in July of 2024. And whereas during her time acting as an environmental commissioner, Commissioner Peterson has been ably represented the interests of this environmental commission and the citizens of Meridian Township, serving as the advisor for the Sustainability Club at Hazlitt High School. And whereas Commissioner Peterson has worked capably to advance and achieve the goals and objectives adopted by this commission, and the Township Board has acted to engage high school students in many environmentally focused activities and has provided valuable perspectives and insight into the ongoing efforts of the Environmental Commission. Now, therefore, the Township Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, wishes publicly to recognize, commend, and thank Cynthia Peterson for her contributions to and impacts on the work of this commission and the quality of life in this community. This commission is grateful for your public service and wishes you well in your future pursuits.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to adopt a tribute of appreciation. Any further discussion? I just personally, I'm very thankful for Commissioner Peterson's presence on the commission. It's been a delight working with her, and wish her the best in her future endeavors. All in favor of adopting the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The tribute is adopted unanimously. That takes us to item 9C, approval of meeting dates for 2026. We have a list of proposed meeting dates in the packet, Jan 7, Feb 4, March 4, etc. Does anyone have any objection to any of the dates listed in this resolution? Going once, going twice. The meeting schedule is approved without objection. That takes us to commissioner roster and election. Yes,
Chair, I guess there's one note I'd like to maybe make on the schedule there.
okay?
I guess we could bring this up now. I believe early last year in the spring, we had discussed moving our meeting time from 7 PM to earlier in the evening, 6:30 or 6 potentially. And as I recall, Commissioner Peterson was, I think, our only holdout on that. So now with a kind of a fresh commission here, I would just like to maybe posit that again, that we consider moving our time a little earlier in the evening.
Thank you very much for that suggestion. Floating that balloon for a while, and I must have gotten tired of it. Any thoughts from commissioners on an earlier meeting time?
That would be fine.
I assume there are no conflicts with room availability for those.
It wasn't
that
in
change.
use for the last half hour before this anytime I've ever come, so. Commissioner Bellil, do you have I thought I saw a note of maybe, yeah.
Just kind of like, I mean, you know, family obligations, but I can make it happen.
I feel similarly. My schedule is busy no matter what time it feels like, so, yeah, whatever works best for the majority.
So we would think closer to 6:30, is that?
The planning commission currently meets at 6:30.
Okay.
Could try that, see how it feels for 2026.
All right.
I like that.
So amending my own motion to adopt this draft resolution each month at 6:30 PM.
Do you need a second?
Sure.
If so, I'll second.
All right, now we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Now, that resolution is adopted. And that takes us to commissioner roster and elections. I take it staff has some information also in the packet. So we're seeing that I swore at this clerk earlier and am now re-upped for another term. And we have 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about my own.
Yeah.
I thought I was reappointed this summer, which is when I initially joined. So that date confuses me, but I'm more than willing to be reappointed again, yeah.
I think I believe, I'd have to double check on if it's a calendar. I believe it's a full year, so it should be your start date essentially should be that reset point. So we can get that corrected.
But I think you'd like to continue, and I'm sure we'd like you to continue, so whatever we need
For
to
as
do to
long
make
as
that
I
happen,
can, I
yes,
plan to
please. So I guess if there's a discussion under the first part of this item, commission roster, the main item is that there are currently 2 vacancies on this roster. Are we aware of any outstanding applications for public service that name the Environmental Commission as a desire?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay. First step, I think, is to check with the clerk's office. The application is, I'm sure you remember, when you apply for public service, there's a checklist and you can, this, or this. And it's always good to make sure when we have vacancies that we go through and find out if there are any outstanding applications that have checked that box so we can respond to members of the public who have already expressed an interest, in addition to thinking about how to otherwise fill vacant positions.
So how does that work? So they apply, I mean, they submit an application and then do we, like, you go through and find them and then?
The applications are submitted to the clerk's office, and then the
Okay.
clerk's office makes them available to the boards and commissions which those applicants have selected, I
Okay.
think is the process.
Yeah, then we'll review them and bring them in for a interview.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe if somebody applied for ZBA or something, just could bring them in. Any other thoughts, discussion on the roster issue? A heads up under commissioner comments, just would like to reflect a little bit on the situation that we're in and having these vacancies and how we might understand that and whether there's something to be taken from that and how we might respond. However, for the moment, we have the matter of electing officers of this commission is an annual duty that we undergo. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody that I've been sitting in this chair for an awful long time, and I'll be really, really happy if somebody else would take up the mantle. I did literally swear the oath again to the clerk, so I'm not going anywhere. I've around for another 3 years, I think it is. So, yeah. And I would like to open the floor for nominations for chair and vice chair of the Environmental Commission. Preferably, anyone who would like to self-nominate at this time, this would be great.
So are you saying if we did nominate you for chair? Not.
I would encourage continued nominations until there was a second name is how I would proceed in that position.
Bill McConnell as chair. I commend your service, and I think you have the historical perspective and background that's served the committee very well.
I second that.
As the person at this dais who's not bringing forward any nominations nor voting, I will say, the expectations of a chair are obviously running these meetings, but it does come, of course, with working with Jack, and I believe any of you would be qualified to do so. I do also commend Bill's longtime service as chair of this board, but I did want to throw that out there. Richard, you beat me to it with your comment, or with your nomination, but I think any of you would be well qualified individuals to lead this commission.
Are there any other expectations or other duties that we're unaware of, I guess would be my question for in the chair role as well as vice chair?
At this point, really the only act that the chair, that I've undertaken as chair in memory is decisions about whether to hold a meeting or not. I think I'd like to discuss that at some point later on in the meeting, but that's the only other duty. One of the most pleasurable duties of the chair is taking responsibility at the annual boards and commissions meeting to speak on behalf of the commission and explain what it is that we've been up to and what it is we plan to do. And that's a pretty special time because you're hearing from all the other boards and commissions about what they're doing, and you get to see who those people are and what they're doing. And since what we do rarely makes anyone anything other than happy, it's always a pretty happy thing. It's not like some of the other folks who are a little bit more harder regulatory and can ruffle feathers. We don't often ruffle feathers, so not a big. And frankly, the staff takes care of all the agendas and the minutes and all that stuff, so there isn't really any administrative. Or occasionally, somebody's supposed to sign the resolutions that we voted on so that they can go into a drawer someplace. There's that. Okay, well, I was going to hold it till later, but I'll go ahead since we're in. We only have a single nomination on the floor, and I'm trying to decline it. I don't want to over analyze the membership situation that the commission finds itself in, but my thought is that it may be, and it's my sense that the business that the Environmental Commission has been conducting for the last year or two is relatively light. And that our agendas tend to be quite light. And the meetings are tending to focus as much on sharing information as on deliberating and making decisions. And I understand that it's a challenge to get people to show up in the evening for a meeting that seems to have relatively minor impact. And I've said this to many people and many times. For many years, when I served on the Environmental Commission, we were seeing regularly, several times a year, wetland use permit applications, and it's a huge undertaking. It comes with all the engineering drawings, it comes with all the consultants' reports, it comes with all the other stuff. And during those times, we would have an initial presentation, we would have a public hearing, we would have discussion, and ultimately making recommendations either to the Planning Commission or to the Township Board. For a variety of reasons over the last couple of years, the number of wetland use permit applications has dropped precipitously. We're just not seeing them. Partly, I believe that's because the township is getting kind of built out, and there's not a lot of great big parcels of land that are being developed. But those that we're seeing at the Planning Commission, the plans, the initial concept plans, almost always completely avoid any wetland impact whatsoever. The one we're looking at on Central Park Drive, they want to put a building into a little bit of a corner of a setback, and even that's kind of, and I think what's, in my mind, what's happening is that applicants are coming to understand that it's just build around them. It's way easier. It's going to go a lot faster for you. If you try to build into the wetland, you're going to have to come here, you're going to have to make a presentation, then we're going to have a public hearing, then we're going to have to have more discussion, and then we're going to make a recommendation to somebody else who's going to have another presentation. So it adds at least 3 meetings and 3 months to an application process that already has a township clock ticking by law. And it begins to feel a little bit like red tape. And you may not be aware that variances to impacts on wetland buffers, which you would have thought would come here, typically go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, because they're just asking for a one-time variance to an ordinance, and the ZBA has the authority to do that. Even when we do see those applications here, we're always recommending the Planning Commission or the Township Board, so they're already going to get seen. And that is a wonderful thing, because it means that nobody's trying to build in our wetlands. You know, the ordinance is working, right? I feel like there are other places where that authority could reside, either permanently or on an ad hoc basis. So the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority only meets when they have an application to discuss, otherwise they don't bother. The authority to review wetland use permit applications comes from the original Wetland Protection Ordinance, which assigned that duty to a Wetland Protection Board, which then later was kind of expanded to become the Environmental Commission. I can envision a world in which we went back to having a Wetland Preservation Board that acted like the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. If there's an application, get together, discuss it, make a recommendation, and move on. Some wetland impacts are handled administratively. In other words, they go to the Director of Planning and Community Development. And that has to do with some relatively arcane facets of planning law and whether there's a change in land use. But that authority could also simply devolve permanently to staff, to administrative functions, and I don't think it would work any worse than it currently does. So that's a long way of saying one of the major things that used to occupy this commission is no longer doing that, and could equally be done elsewhere. And envisioning a new or envisioned or a recalibrated mission for the commission I'm not finding that in myself as a commission leader. Because I've been here so long and we've always done it this way. And so I'm really hoping either in a chair's role or just as a commission, we can think hard about what it is, how we want to spend our time, how often we want to get together, for what purpose. And we can talk about how all those mechanics at some point if we want to, but I'm pleading for more thoughts about how we can best serve the township as a commission. And that's a long-winded way of saying, I would like to nominate you, Monley, as chair of the Environment Commission. I'm hoping somebody will second my. Thank you.
Now, Bill, would you be interested in sticking around in the commission?
I just
following the session?
I'm here for 3 more years.
Okay, so you'd be.
And I plan on showing up all the time and helping out in every single way I can.
One of the things, I'm on a committee, or I just changed leadership of this committee to, I was the chair, I had a vice chair, and we were doing was we were keeping our former chair on for another year, essentially, just to provide support to the new chair, kind of give them a little more guidance that way. I'm not saying that that necessarily has to happen here, but it just may encourage other people to step up, knowing that you'll still be here and as a resource.
I would happily accept the nomination as vice chair.
Little musical chairs there.
In fact, in the past, we have occasionally done whole motions as slates, right? So I would like to propose a slate of you, Mon, as chair, and I would be happy to serve as vice chair.
Or
How's that?
somebody else would like to be chair.
Is there anybody else that would be at all interested in
Yeah.
taking up the gavel?
Vice chair.
Commissioner Lee, would you care to comment on whether or not you'd be willing to take it on?
I do have thoughts about things that I think the commission could work on. So I'm excited about that aspect of it. I am a little concerned about my, during the field season, like I'm in the field a lot, and so I'm concerned about not being able to make the meetings. But if we end up, like, you know, scaling back, talked about potentially if we don't need to meet as often potentially, then maybe it wouldn't be as big of an issue then. So, yeah.
And I think
Can you-
there's reassurance that Bill would
Can you,
be available to. Support.
am I correct in assuming field season warmer months?
Yeah, I mean, April through, you know, the busiest time is April to June.
Okay.
That's the busiest time, yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to
Yeah.
ensure that I can attend those meetings
Yeah.
and chair in any absence that you might have.
I also am not as good as like the whole Robert's Rules type of stuff.
Well, I'm very
You are.
happy to help
People
out with that. And it comes with experience, it comes with practice, and we all stumble when we first
Yeah.
try it out, but
There might be one in there, honestly. A Christmas gift I received last year from the township.
I also tend to use a very sort of expedient meeting style that I learned from the mayor of Worcester, Massachusetts, when I was in grad school, who wanted the meetings to move along, so he didn't, without objection, but no one is required to operate that way. Many of our boards and commissions, most, I would say, certainly Planning Commission and Township Board tend to be much more formal. And that's important because those meetings involve making decisions that have consequences on applicants and other. So it's important to be very rigorous in those. Here, I tend to take a less formal. And I believe the Park Commission is also a little bit less land preservation.
Yeah, we're pretty, yeah.
So I personally feel comfortable with that, but it's up to whoever's running the meeting to decide how formal or informal they want.
So I would be willing to do it with Bill as vice chair, or anybody else who wants to do vice chair, to give him a break this year. But anybody else who is interested, also, I would totally be fine with that as well.
I would be happy to serve as parliamentarian if somebody wants to be vice chair.
Then if it helps facilitate the decision-making process, I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. It's a slate appointment. You must be as chair and myself as vice chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Say nay. You're in charge of the meeting from now on.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for agreeing to.
I came in here thinking, I'm really not going to do this.
But if I might, I failed under item 6 to mention that there was an email from Commissioner Frazier, both mentioning that he wasn't going to be able to attend this evening and also mentioning that he would be willing to accept the role of Brownfield Redevelopment Authority representative. And I would like to make that motion at this time that we appoint him in absentia as our representative to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Second.
You're in charge.
Oh, already?
That's right. Well,
Big
we elected
turnover
you.
here.
Yes.
Pass the reins.
I wasn't ready for that. No.
I should have alerted you that it takes place immediately. By the way, I hear my mother calling.
So, okay, you made the motion for it? Okay.
But normally the chair doesn't
Need a
second
second.
motions, but
Yeah.
you can. That's okay.
Unless someone else likes to second.
I could second.
Okay.
And then normally we'd have any discussion.
Any discussion on that?
Not a one.
I think Commissioner Frazier would be well qualified for that position, so I fully
Thank
endorse
you
it.
for stepping forward and volunteering.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
It's just typically a voice vote.
okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, so motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Fraser.
Hope you're enjoying yourself wherever you are.
Yeah.
So I think he said he had another meeting he had to.
He said he was out of state.
Out of state, like in Florida or something.
Maybe up north or somewhere more exciting.
Okay, so next on the agenda, staff report.
Yeah, that'll be me. So kind of tack this onto the back of the packet there. A couple updates on our funding. So I've got our climate sustainability funding on there. Let's see if I can pull that up here too. Yeah, I'll touch on this. So we had, this should look a little familiar. We had kind of gone over this a meeting or two ago. I've updated this to reflect a little more as my understanding of this program has grown. So as I understood it previously, I knew that we had in the year of 2024, the board had approved a $30,000 allocation to this program. And as I had understood it, that this fund was available and then would continue to roll through year after year as if all of it was not expended. And I had presumed that's where the funding from 2025 came from. I was incorrect there. These are separate allocations that have been made. So in 2024, the board allotted $30,000 to this program, and then separately in 2025, the board allotted a separate $25,000 to this program. So I've got that at the bottom. I think I may, I'm missing a cell here essentially, but this date here shows the bump in our balance of this fund essentially from that allocation that year. And to further clarify kind of how that, how those funds roll over or change years is at the end of a year, whatever funds are not expended from these budgets, they don't roll forward necessarily. They also don't evaporate. They do go back into the general fund, but that money has still been set aside in a way. And so long as we present a formulated proposal to the township board, we can still essentially consider that funding earmarked for us. So just a little update on kind of how that process works. It doesn't just go from year to year to year. It actually does kind of liquidate at the end of the year, whatever wasn't used, but that allotment is still considered for this. So that's kind of looking at what we've got here and looking forwards. So history of the program, we've mostly allocated some resources out to our cleaning team there. As we had a presentation on today, we had some wetland signage that was put up in 2024. The future wetland signage that Emma mentioned, that's still kind of in the works, is this item here, this second to last bit. This was another separate wetland signage expense from here, and I would think that further funding for such initiatives could come from here. Ultimately, the end of the initiatives that this commission has kind of brought forward has left us with a balance of $47K or so at the end of 2025. Before those funds were entirely liquidated back into the general fund, the Public Works Department did allocate 25 grand of that, or I'm sorry, 22 grand of that into the Marshall Park Bioswales project, which we had presented earlier in the year, and is still felt to be one of the most impactful and strongest ways to utilize some of this funding. It addresses a massive problem with the township in a way that's very green and beneficial to our community. Without this funding, essentially, we'd be handing over the problem to the Drain Commission, who would just love to install about a dozen concrete drains and call it good. So we would prefer to come up with a more holistic and more natural approach, which I can talk about further here. So as a quick refresher, this is our Marshall Park area, our Columbia Street and Bliss Street here, and Lake Street kind of delineate an area that's prone to severe flooding. We've had resident complaints from all these houses in the southeast corner of this park about how their driveways and even garages will flood in times of severe weather. As we heard from Emma today, we know this whole park is inundated quite often. She had mentioned that the center of this park is often rather swampy and not terribly usable. So it was proposed to kind of alongside of the road here and in this kind of southeast corner here to develop ditching, bioswales, other natural detention, retention, remediation efforts to collect some of this water so that it's not such an emergent flood hazard. And through the use of a few underground drains on this vacant open parcel here and on this vacant open parcel to the north, the idea would be to carry this stormwater into Lake Lansing. That was kind of the first initial idea, was to just utilize this corner. We met with Spalding to Decker, the engineers who are handling our local road program, who are going to be redoing all the roads in this area. We met with them today to further discuss the bioswale concept. They were not as far along as be able to present to the entire commission tonight, as I was hoping to do. But we did get a little teaser, so I'd like to kind of give you guys at least a sneak preview of kind of what's happening here. So from them, we kind of received this plan here. I'll try to zoom in a bit. This isn't in the packet since this isn't really set in stone yet, but the idea, actually I'll include some of their examples here, would be instead of one deep, large pocket in the southeast corner of this park that is currently flooded anyway, instead of one large, deep basin there, the idea would be to kind of spread our detention areas across the entire Marshall Park and to create 3 separate basins that would kind of work like a mountain lake system where you've got upper lakes that drain to lower lakes, that drain to lower lakes, etc. So this upper basin would collect water from Bliss Street. It would then transfer through this underground culvert to this middle basin, which would then shed that water to the lower basin, which also collects water from the south edge of the park. And all of this would then flow down through a series of drains and culverts out into Lake Lansing. A similar idea up here would instead be to capture flows coming in from the north and just take it directly out to Lake Lansing, intercept them from ever entering this park in Columbia Street area. We're in talks with them about how to provide adequate filtration of the water. And this path up here in the northeast would be notably shorter than all the way down through these various basins, which would effectively treat a lot of the water before it gets to the lake. And obviously a lot of the plants would transpire a lot of this water too, which would effectively utilize it and reduce our runoff. They did propose as well to kind of fluff up the park with some additional pathways and trails through here. Those are a bit on the fence, as our Parks Department is already stretched on what they can maintain. But even if the pathways weren't paved necessarily for biking and jogging and whatnot, these would still be like kind of raised berms almost, essentially, that would still kind of carve out this park a little bit. This would be firmer, ground that you could still walk and recreate on, and it would keep you out of the kind of the soggier parts. This center basin area and this open green space here that Emma kind of mentioned, this is already pretty swampy generally, so I think this middle basin would actually grow to encompass probably twice the size that's currently shown here and utilize the entire center of this park and keep the entire western side of the park open for recreation, and consider the eastern side of the park to be more of the term would be an emergent wetland that's right there on the edge. And the kind of the design approach there is, instead of one very deep basin that tries to capture everything, it's multiple shallow basins, which are a little, nicer to look at, nicer to work with, and provide much more wetland space as well for native plantings and other kind of opportunities there. Potentially also, we can look at doing educational signage there as well. All these little ways we've come up with to really promote this. I think they have an example here of kind of what they'd be like, explaining to the public, why is this a wetland now? What did this used to be? This used to be a giant flooding zone, and now it's a wetland. The signage would try to explain to residents like what the township is doing to remediate some of these issues, and really try to highlight that instead of just putting up more concrete and more drains, we're trying to put up more natural gardens and rain gardens, and I think better ways to mitigate that. There's another good example of kind of what a fully fleshed out, grown in bioswale would look like. So this is currently still in development. This is, again, these guys, Swalley Decker, put this draft to us together literally this morning and discussed it with us this afternoon. So this is very much a still in flux kind of concept, but this is the general idea, and our public works staff generally liked the idea. We were planning to take this to the Parks Department at their next meeting. However, considering that the engineering company here is needs a little more time to put some of this together and come up with some better estimates on this, we're going to try to push that back till maybe the next Parks Commission meeting. So, little delay on the approval process for this, but I just wanted to at least kind of give us a little sneak preview here of what's coming, and to expect a little more development on this in the coming months. So that's kind of, what we're doing. We're that 22 grand out of this climate sustainability funding. That's where that has been set up as some of their, it covers some of the field work they've already done, some of the surveying they've done out there, and we'll continue to, provide like the step needed to get us away from just basic drains and ditches and to get us into bioswales and natural remediation. That's what this climate sustainability funding is allowing us to do. Without this funding, we would be at the behest of the Drain Commission. And yeah, we really do feel like this is one of the best possible uses for this funding. For the rest of this funding here, I also kind of misunderstood the staff role in this regard, where I think at one of the previous meetings, I was postulating or wondering what the Environmental Commission would like to do with some of this, and we did have some discussion on a few previous ideas. I better understand now that this is more on the staff side to come up with and propose ideas to bring to the commission to then go over and review. So that's going to be something that we're going to be looking at for the next, I think, month or two here, and looking to come back to the commission with a kind of put together list of potential projects, including the ones we've talked about with, cost and figures associated. So I'd like to just mention that in the coming months, hopefully the next month or two, we will be taking a closer look at this and how to better and best utilize the remainder funding here. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? Yeah.
I have a question. So thank you very much for framing all this up and for the background on the bioswales. That's very helpful. For the 25K that you were saying remaining that we need to present to the board, do we need to work on that right now, or how does that?
That would just be.
What's our responsibility, I guess?
It would just be as soon as we have, as soon as I put together a list of potential projects and we select and review a few of those, then we would take those and bring those to the board.
Okay.
And that's how we would tap into that.
Recoup those funds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. I was going to, I think you answered my first question, which was the 22,150 is an expense. It's not a earmark. That's for the design costs that are being incurred as we speak. So, two other questions about that particular project. I'm sure we've talked about these before, but I don't remember. Well, now that we have a design for a larger kind of storm detention facility in the center, is there an expectation that would still be mowed when it's dry enough to be mowed, but would be able to accommodate storm surge otherwise? Is that kind of how that is planned to? Is that the thinking of the Spalding to Decker?
Yeah, as they kind of explained a little bit, the way they've got it kind of tiered is they would expect that the lower basin in the southeast would remain more or less perpetually marshy throughout the year.
I was thinking of the open green space in the center one. That one.
Yeah, so they're by the way they'd like to design it would be that in a storm surge, essentially all these would be utilized, but the upper basin would dry out first, the middle green space area would dry out second, and the idea would be to dry it out and make it semi-usable, and then the lower basin would eventually dry out, but it would take the longest. I don't think it would be very recreatable though, however, for,
It's going to be soggy. Yeah.
I think I can add, if you visited Marshall Park recently, what's designated as the open green space south of earthen berms has been planted with native kind of upland plants. So it's not currently mowed,
Okay.
but it's basically an emergent wetland area that is being preserved for kind of native plantings. And I presume that would be the intention to keep that going forward?
Right, to keep those basins as native planting zones.
Other open green space and the portion to the north of that, my understanding is that is mowed.
Right, yeah, this would continue to be mowed and maintained over here. And these pathways, they're hesitant on if they can clear those out of snow, just adding more to that. But I think they were in favor of the idea of reducing mowing space out here, the Parks Department.
And my other question had to do with outreach, and I know that this kind of has its genesis in reach, folks having problems, and we're learning about them when we're trying to address them. But I'm wondering about more broadly whether there has been, should be, could be more outreach beyond the immediate neighbors, whether that goes to the Lake Lansing Advisory Board or whether it's maybe a notice to the abutting property owners about, I don't think we're legally required to notify adjacent property owners when we go to change our own properties, right, our township properties, but I think it's worth considering engaging folks earlier rather than people wondering why there's a backhoe digging a hole in the middle of the park.
Right. I think we'd certainly be bringing it to the LLAB, the Lake Lansing Advisory Board. I think we'd also.
Piggybacking on that question, would we envision like a public comment period after a plan is been proposed that would allow residents in this area to provide input?
I suppose we could, we could ask the consultants to make a presentation here about a final plan, and if through Lake Lansing Advisory Board, they could notify their membership that this is happening and they can come and listen and comment at that time.
Yeah, this might be the perfect forum for that.
But and just to answer your question, Richard, typically something like this, which does follow what the planned use of that park and just updating it in a way that, if anything, just makes it more usable and friendly to the environment, it would not come with like a necessary public comment period. So just wanted to make sure that that was made clear. But I fully encourage, participation of the public here where we are discussing this project.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me a little bit of the water retention project that Ingham County Drain Commission put in, I guess it's to the east of Frandor, where they have retention pools at different levels that are interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly a very extensive project, very expensive project, I presume. Looking at this, I can't imagine it would fit within the current amount of funds that are designated from the climate sustainability. So do we have any estimate on what the overall cost for something like this would be? And is there the potential for external grant funding to contribute to a project like this?
As I understand, we would be also tapping some of the local road program to at least obviously the roads there, and also some of the culverts and drainage. As far as a estimate for this project, we did ask about that today at our meeting, and it's simply too green for them to put a number on it. But we hope to have that information soon to better consider what this is going to look like financially.
Yes.
If the drain commissioner is going to be involved, I believe the process is that someone who is experiencing problems with the drain petitions the drain commissioner for a solution to a drainage problem. And the drain commissioner then decides what's the appropriate action and hands an assessment to everyone who would benefit from the improvement. And they can then challenge that. So it becomes a very different form of process.
We do know, just the one note I can speak to there is this drain in the southeast here. The Drain Commission does not consider this theirs. They've kind of relinquished it to the township, the residents, as it were. So the township is kind of taking responsibility for that one and looks to take it under our wing, essentially. I don't know, I guess I haven't really looked into how far discussions have gotten with the Drain Commission on this yet. I think we're hoping to just swoop in and tackle it ourselves. But, yeah, well, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm, generally supportive of bioswales and everything. My only concern with this particular location is if we start creating these, I'm wondering if, we're making wetlands sort of, right, that become more attractive to like animals, like turtles potentially, or, amphibians and everything. And it's right next to this road. And so if we create like a trap for them now, because now they're going to start using it, and there's going to be mortality along the road. So I was wondering about with that culvert, like if we're going to do something, is there, an opportunity to potentially think about designing that so that it could be potentially more like an eco passage or like an underpass for,
Like a two-stage box culvert with the drain.
yeah,
in the middle.
something that we design it, if we're gonna do it anyway, like design in a way that might help make it, and then you'd have to put some kind of fencing, to direct the animals, there. 'Cause
Sure.
otherwise, yeah, so,
That's a great consideration. Yeah, I'll be sure to bring that up.
because before it wasn't great, it wasn't really good habitat because it was just mowed grass.
Yeah,
Now
right.
you're like, it looks really good, and oh no, now we're gonna wanna cross the road more.
And that was the case in the raised platform
Right.
over by Bennett School, Bennett Woods,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had the under, yeah.
Yeah, that was an issue too, potentially. I guess, and the other, the other question I had was not necessarily about the bioswale, but, in the past, for the climate sustainability funding, we were also able to, bring ideas for how to use that funding. So will there still be an opportunity for us to do that, like either to provide?
Oh, absolutely.
Or something, okay.
Yep, I just need to do more on my part to
Okay.
organize and bring this forward to the commission.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you can give us a timeline of when you want them, or, we can set up the meeting so that we know, like, okay, at this meeting, we're gonna be talking about proposal ideas, so then we can kind of prepare for that ahead of time. That would be great.
Sure.
I just wanted to confirm on the budget though, so is it, I know Bill mentioned this too, but so these plans that have all been drafted in these meetings, so that has been an expense for the 22,150
Right.
is charged to us? Okay,
Kind of a preemptive.
okay. But that's only for the plan, right? For this
Right.
development. Okay.
It's right, the staking, the surveying, the kind of putting the plans together. Yeah, once we get a better number from them on what the total cost is going to be, that's when we can kind of figure out the best way to approach that. All right, all set there. Okay, yeah, more to come on that, and I'm excited to see this one move.
Yeah. So, did you have something for the green grants, or was that just a summary?
Yeah, actually, I was going to then go into a quick review of the green grants. So I have a better table in the packet there. But essentially, just a quick touch up on our 2025 green grants. We had 6 of them awarded. Cornell Woods for native plantings, Girl Scout Troop for an outdoor classroom, the Montessori Radmore School for additional native plantings, our Pine Creek Condo Association for invasive species removal, the YMCA Parkwood Branch for improvements to their outdoor classroom, and the Mid-Michigan Land Conservancy, also native plantings. Just a quick report that the Cornell Woods HOA grant is completely paid out, as is the YMCA Parkwood grant. The paperwork is in process for the Montessori Radmore grant, and I am collecting the final invoices from the Girl Scouts, Pine Creek Condo Association, and Mid-Michigan Land Conservancy. So we look to wrap those up in the next, essentially this month will be the month I'd be looking to close all these out. And then I guess a note for 2026 is we have an allocation of $15,000 for green grants. And will be the communications department is putting together their Prime Meridian mailer magazine. And we'll be including a little blurb in that to advertise that, to anybody who may be interested in green grants. We'll put a little note in there to help get the word out that way. But yeah.
I have a question. I can't remember. How did the 15,000? Did that get allocated at the township board, or how did that come about? That amount? I don't remember.
Yep.
So that was the amount that the township board approved for our budget for this year.
Okay. So that doesn't come out of the climate sustainability
No.
fund. That's separate. Then.
Totally separate. Yep.
Can you remind us of the time frame for the green grants?
Last year, our deadline was March 26th. And then within 2 weeks that followed that, John Zarver and I reviewed the applications together with Dan Opsmer, and came back with recommendations, which we addressed, I think, at the
Would have been the April or May
April
meeting there,
meeting.
yeah.
So will we need to review that application if we want any tweaks about that, all that kind of thing? Like, soon, right? Because when are we accepting then?
Yeah, when does
When did we open?
when does it start?
Yeah.
I guess it's essentially open now. It'll probably be more open after we get the kind of the advert out, but I was essentially gonna reuse the agreement from last year, kind of go through, change the dates. If there are some revisions we'd like to make to that, that'd be a good thing to talk about.
When is the mailer going out, do you know?
Well, the advert, they're looking to finalize it tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Friday, but I don't think it gets physically mailed out till later. We'd just be putting in there a little, hey, if you're interested, here's a link to go check out, and we have all the real information will be on the website.
On the web, okay.
Yeah, as I recall, the request for proposals was posted on the website probably sometime in February, or after our February meeting. So it might be appropriate for the committee to see draft language for this year's
Sure.
request for proposals in the February agenda. I think that would,
I agree.
I will have that ready for our February meeting.
Do we have a full committee, or do we need more? Are we happy with the, Commissioner Sarver was serving in that role previously, yeah?
that's true.
In terms
We'll
of,
need at least one more volunteer for reviewing. But we can address that later.
All right.
any other questions on our Green Grant program?
Thanks for that update. That's great.
Sure. Okay, that is all I have from staff then.
Okay, so, reports from liaisons, township board?
Yeah. Pretty light start to our year. Did not have any action items at our board meeting last night. We had 3 discussion items, one of which is so boring that it will not necessitate any conversation at all. The other 2, somewhat more substantive, Manager Dempsey gave an update on the senior center search that has continued to bedevil, might be the best word, those who are involved in it. There have been many attempts made with private private building owners that just did not work out. I would encourage all of you, if you are interested in learning more, to go back and watch the home TV recordings of that, because there is potential for partnership with Melcomus. There's potential that there are other facilities available. And in the communication section of that board packet, there are a number of citizens who send emails with ideas that were not directly addressed in our conversation. But again, if you're interested in learning more about that, the $5 million grant from the state of Michigan does expire at the end of September of this year. So that will need to be expended if it is to be expended by that time. And the township is doing everything they can to see if that can either be extended, allowing our timeline, because the current senior center is still in use for another 2.5 years, or if there's some finagling there. Any questions about that?
That's a $5 million grant from the state?
Yes, so that was passed through from the state, which is to say ARPA dollars from the federal government. Township was awarded it a number of years ago at this point, and the size requirements of the senior center, as well as available area, and then the time it would take to build something new, considering the the millage that did not pass last year kind of puts us in this situation that we're in now, which is trying to find a way to spend those dollars.
Was there any discussion of clawback of that funds when the legislature was
So
looking at unspent funds?
This was not a part of that clawback attempt by Speaker Hall, and for what it's worth, I know that the Attorney General just made a motion to deny any of those actions. So this was not applicable here. So, and then the township board goals for the year are going to be updated so slightly, just to indicate that there was a failed millage attempt, so it is a senior center only. Those township board goals are available on the website. We separated out board goals and excuse me, what is the, can't remember what the phrase was. Board values, because as much as we care about the environment, if we're not actively doing something for it, does it really make sense to put it as a goal? Was the thought there. So other than that, the biggest conversation in town being the potential building along Central Park of new housing is still not come back to the township board. I believe there's back and forth between staff and the proposed builders. If it does end up coming back to us, I know we will give plenty of notice to township residents about it. Is there any questions regarding township board activities? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission last met on November 17th and spent the bulk of its time on that topic. The proposed construction along Central Park Drive. The Planning Commission ultimately sent a resolution to the Township Board recommending approval. There's a healthy set of a dozen or so conditions that the applicant has offered along with their application that creates increased buffer between what they're planning to do and the single-family homes behind. That involves walkability connections to the north and to the west, and a number of other concessions in terms of numbers of units and heights of buildings and that sort of thing. And we'll see what happens when that gets to the township board. As I said before, probably the biggest, the most voluminous public comment the Planning Commission has seen in a while was on that property. And I'm always amazed at how the public, at least planning, I don't know about the township board, but I run the clock at the Planning Commission and people finish before that thing like in seconds, like they've nailed it. They've got a script and they go, dang, no, I wanted. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Land Preservation Advisory Board, so that is me. We met, our last meeting was November 12th, and we discussed there's a the township is proposing a pathway through what we call the Pike Crossing Preserve, which is up near Lake Lansing. And I guess they're going to be presenting to the Land Preservation Advisory Board at an upcoming meeting then. And there's also, we talked about a proposed parking lot by Lake Lansing North along Green Road right away, or the Green Road entrance to Lake Lansing North. It's a very sensitive area ecologically. And so the Land Preservation Advisory Board has some concerns about it, so we're going to be bringing those concerns to Ingham County. I think Emma gave us an update on the deer harvest in the township. So back in November, we were up to about 82 deer that have been taken, so I'm sure by now we've taken more. And then Emma gave a talk to the Capital Area Audubon, and talked about which led to the Bird City, Michigan. One thing that she did mention that I think would be really good to do would be, since we've been removing all this invasive shrubs and invasive species and a lot of our, preserves and stuff, that autumn olive and those invasives provide food for birds. And so she talked about, wanting to try to replace some of those, invasive shrubs with native shrubs to help boost and kind of replace the food source for the birds then, since we're removing the invasive species. So I think that's something that will help with the initiative and also will be good to do in general for the, for the township and for our bird population. And I think that was it. So our next meeting is next week. So, yeah. Okay. Any questions? All right, Parks Commission?
So for the Parks Commission, there were meetings in October and November that I haven't reported on, and they canceled their December meeting. But one small item is there were about a half a dozen township residents who attended public comment period for the Parks Commission, requesting construction of a small shelter against wind and rain at the small dog park located in Nancy Moore, noting that it receives daily use regardless of weather conditions. Many of the users are elderly residents with mobility issues, and they felt some sort of protection from wind and rain was appropriate for that area, and the Director Wazinski promised to look into possible solutions for that. There was additional discussion about possible locations for a cricket field. Regulation cricket field requires about 6.5 acres, and none of the park facilities can accommodate an athletic field of that size. But the leading candidate remains North Meridian Park, but they conducted a survey which delineated 2 emergent wetlands in that area that would be problematic for construction. And in any event, that area is only half the required size, so that doesn't look particularly good. They're looking at other options, but there really hasn't been any movement forward on that. The Park Commission also is facing development of their 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which they need essentially to be able to apply for Michigan DNR grants. They have an outside consultant who's helping with that, and then I imagine the first months of 2026 they'll make some progress towards getting that master plan in place for the next 5 years. There was a small, I'm mentioning this in the context of the Bird Mission City program. There was a presentation from an Eagle Scout from Hazlitt Troop 97. His name's Nicholas Liddick, who proposed constructing and installing full-size, essentially wing profile cutouts for some of the large raptor birds that are indigenous to this area, and particularly Harris Nature Center. So he got approval from the Park Commission to go ahead with that project, and it's slated for completion in spring 2026, and then his cutouts will be mounted along one of the pathways at Harris Nature Center. And it looks like that may be dedicated pretty close to the World Migratory Bird Day event, so it might be a nice connection there. And then other matters were kind of routine discussion of their budgets and event planning. So that's it from the Park Commission.
Okay, thank you. Next, the teams, so energy team.
So I can comment on Energy Team. I've been attending those meetings since John Sarver stepped off of the commission. Marshall Clabo, who represents Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, reported that the Ingham County Office of Sustainability has been wrapping up listening sessions towards its goal of developing a county sustainability action plan, SAP. And if anyone's interested, there's a webpage on the Ingham County website describing the development process that they're putting in place to develop that sustainability action plan, which I presume will be finalized sometime during 2026. The energy team also briefly discussed concerns raised about the AI data center that's proposed for Saline Township, which is south of Ann Arbor, and the effect this might have on electrical consumer ratepayers, particularly for Detroit Edison customers, since that's part of the DTE territory. It's my understanding that if completed, this would be the third large AI data center located in Michigan. There's one in the Grand Rapids area, and I don't know where the third one is. According to a report that I saw from on MLive from December, the Saline Township trustees initially voted against rezoning request to permit construction. But subsequently, they settled with the developers despite a lot of local opposition to the project. Michigan Public Service Commission also approved the request for the 1.4 gigawatt facility in late December, and construction on that facility is expected to begin in early 2026. However, there are other reports from another news organization called Axios indicating that there are questions remaining regarding the funding of this $10 billion project, so I don't know if that's going to slow development down or not. But given the difficult issues that surround large AI data centers, I'm kind of mentioning this because this might be something that in the future we may need to give some discussion and attention to if anything like this is proposed for the greater Lansing metropolitan area. That's it from the energy team.
Great, thanks. Green team, well, we don't have a green team report because.
Yeah, we don't have Tom, but I guess I can quick mention that we're meeting tomorrow to kind of, our meeting in December, we kind of forecasted out some green events for the 2026 season, mostly based off of the green events that were held in 2025. We're meeting tomorrow to kind of finalize that plan, and should have some further information on that afterwards.
Great, thanks. Food and composting team, I don't think we have anyone who's currently, I think Cynthia was talking about potentially on that team, but, okay, green burial, which, I don't know if you have anything more, I think that was also Tom. Hazlitt High School.
I don't have Cynthia Peterson to check me on my work anymore, so I hope I don't forget anything. We were on winter break, so only so much happened, but we didn't have a December meeting, so there's various things to mention. We took, I have mentioned before the sustainability field trip, the Sustainability Club field trip. We went to Grand Rapids, or Kent County, I should say, their waste and energy facility and recycling education center. It was remarkable. It was such a fantastic trip. The people there, it is an education center, obviously, but they were so kind, and I learned a lot. We went to MSU, it's like spring 2025, and I learned a lot there, but this was like on another level. They do a lot with like incineration of their trash, which reduces the amount of space that it takes up, and it was really just fascinating how they kind of use the energy from that, the heat, to then do other things. We got to see the where everything's collected. There were birds flying everywhere. They get trapped inside. But it was a lovely day. And then Earth Club has also started. So that's the elementary group that people from sustainability run. And so far it's going swimmingly. our first meeting, we did an activity on like oil spills. We had like big trays with Play-Doh islands and water, and then we added oil and showed how can we get rid of this oil, and it's not easy, and that was kind of the lesson there. And then we just had our first one on what was it? We have a whole bunch going on. We're doing like a wetland in a bottle thing later on in the year. We're doing an invasive species walk in the land around. So far that's going great, and I would assume it will continue. We have a district sustainability team meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot about green school certification. That's run by Eagle, and we're hoping to get all of our schools green school certified this year. And we're gonna, I guess, assign different students to be liaisons to different schools to help them with the application process. Often what we run into is just a lack of time to actually fill out the form and then submit it by the deadline. So we'll work on that. We're trying to get some website presence, like explaining all of the environmental things that are happening around the district to promote it more. And that's been a fun task. That's about it. I hope I'm not forgetting anything.
That's great.
Some of that stuff sounds to me like it might be right for a home TV something. I love the idea of that oil spill and illustrating how that happens in the cleanup thing. That I hope people are taking pictures and all that stuff.
Lots of pictures,
Okay.
don't you worry. You might get another presentation this year.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea. Okay, any other matters or commissioner comments? Hearing none?
I move to adjourn.
Yes, I,
Great idea. Second.
okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.